Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my October TBR video talking about all the books that I intend to read in the month of October. I plan to read 10 books in the month of October, which is pretty normal for me. However, of the 10 books I plan to read, 5 of them are new release books from either last month or this month. 5 of them. That is incredible. 50% of my reading will be new books. That rarely happens. It's just that for some reason, a lot of the publishers put all the books that I'm really interested in for this month, or for this year, all in this month. So I have 5 new releases that I plan to read. So to begin with, the first new release that I plan to read is Batman Resurrection by John Jackson Miller. This is a book set in the Tim Burton Batman universe. It is a sequel to the original Batman, taking place before Batman Returns, and I actually got to interview John Jackson Miller talking about this book. You can see that interview on the channel, and just look up John Jackson Miller interview Jonathan Cohn, you'll find it. And it was great to talk with him about this, and that interview really got me excited to read the book, which I was anyway, because I read every John Jackson Miller book that I can. And after I read that book, I'm going to do a big ranking of all John Jackson Miller's books, and hopefully he won't announce a new one right when I'm about to film my video like it did last time I did this. So I'm really excited for Batman Resurrection. It's media tie-in fiction, which I'm familiar with, but not from a franchise that I'm, most familiar with, like Star Wars or Star Trek. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. We also have another new release book titled Star Wars: The Glass Abyss by Stephen Barnes. This is a Mace Windu book, and this is a great return for Stephen Barnes. Stephen Barnes wrote a book for Star Wars over 20 years ago titled The Cestus Deception. And while I was not the biggest fan of The Cestus Deception, I am excited to see an author like Stephen Barnes return from the EU to the canon. I'm excited to see him tackle a character that he apparently is very much a fan of with Mace Windu. And it's great to see, more types of Star Wars stories, and hopefully this one will be very much enjoyable. This also comes out in October. The third new release is It Will Only Hurt a Moment by Delilah Dawson. This is actually an original horror/thriller book, very much in the same vein as her book The Violence, which came out a couple years ago, and I loved The Violence. The Violence is one of my favorite thriller books. I thought that Delilah Dawson just has a visceral way of writing that I love, and I'm very excited to read this one, and actually got to talk with her a little bit about it when I was at DragonCon, but I'm very excited to read It Will Only Hurt a Moment. And hopefully it'll go on a list of favorite thriller books as well. Then my next 2 new releases I actually have a copy of. One new release, actually, this actually came out in September, but I'm getting to it in October, and that is Jason Cordova's Mountain of Fire from Baen Books. And this is a gorgeous cover. Who is the person who actually designed the cover? It was Kurt Miller who did the illustration. Yeah, this is a gorgeous cover. I love it. And this is from the Black Tide Rising series. But I actually talked with Jason about this book for the last couple of months. And Jason told me that I can totally start the Black Tide Rising series here, that this is like a fun entry in the series, and that it should be an enjoyable read. And so it's a short book. It's only about 320 pages, so I'm very excited to see if this series is for me. Speaking of series that are for me, and probably one of my top most anticipated books of the year, it would have been my number 1 most anticipated book had Wind and Truth not been coming out, basically. But one of my most anticipated books of the year is Shadow of the Smoking Mountain by Howard Andrew Jones. Now, this is kind of a bittersweet thing because I'm really excited to read the book. But for those of you who have not been able to hear the news, Howard was just diagnosed with a form of brain cancer, and we don't know how much longer he has, but it's a very sad situation. But his Hanovar series is one of my favorite fantasy series. It's my current favorite that's in the middle of being published, like currently being released. Books 1 and 2 came out last year. Book 3 comes out this year. I'm so excited to read Shadow of the Smoking Mountain. I think that his Hanuvar series will go down in the echelons of amazing fantasy series one day. And so I'm super excited. It's one of the longer books this month. It's about 500 pages in hardcover, which means in like mass market it'd be like 600 or 700 or 800 pages. So I'm excited to read this one. All right, now those are the 5 new releases. What about the 5 not new release books? The first one I'll talk about is Stephen King's Misery. This is planned to be a buddy read with my friend Caleb from Caleb's Likes Books. We've done buddy reads before. We most recently did a buddy read for the Dead House Gates, and it was great to talk with Caleb about that. And we were thinking about something for spooky season, which is much more Caleb's domain than me. But Misery, I found it at a used bookstore. He found it at a used bookstore. So we were like, hey, let's both read it. So we're going to read this in October. It should be a lot of fun. And it's a short book. It's a Stephen King book that I'm really hoping will work well for me, because I'm really looking forward to a Stephen King book that will work well for me. So that is Misery. I also have another Ben Bova book, Far Side. Ben Bova is one of my favorite science fiction writers. The way he writes that hard science fiction is just, the way he writes exploration and space travel is just so enjoyable to me. And this is one of the books in his Grand Tour universe, and it's really short, and I'm excited to read it. I also have another Star Wars EU book, and that is Order 66 from the Republic Commando series by Karen Travis. By the time this video goes up, I will have read the 3rd book in the series, which is... why am I blanking on that name of that book? 000, I think? Or no, True Colors. And so that'll be in September that I read that book. But in October, I'll read book 4, Order 66. And I'm really excited to finish this series out. And so I also have the 4th book. Speaking of 4th entries in a series, I also have the 4th book in the Fablehaven series titled Secrets of the Dragon Sanctuary. I love the Fablehaven series. It's that fun adventure sort of fantasy. It feels like it combines the sense of wonder of Harry Potter and also Narnia. Like it's just got that exact blend of fantasy storytelling that I love. And I'm super excited to read the penultimate chapter in the original Fablehaven series by Brandon Mull with a gorgeous cover. Ah, I love that cover. Who did it? Eric Deschamps. Eric Deschamps knocked every single cover in this series out of the park. The final book that I plan to read in October is a very, very, very short book, and that is the Stone and Sky Preludes collection by Z.S. Diamante. I will have read the first novel in the Stone and Sky series in September, and so in October I'm planning to read the Prelude collection and use this as part of my YouTube short series for short story reviews. So I'm really excited to get into this one. Beautiful cover. Who did this one? Art by Katrina Skrokach? Anyway, it's beautiful cover art. Very much excited to read this one as well. It's very short. It's only like 130 pages, so I'll be able to knock this out in an afternoon. So those are all of the books that I plan to read in October. 5 new releases, 5 old books. I'm super excited to read all of them, wonder which one's going to be my book of the month. If you've read any of these books or plan to read any of them, let me know your thoughts on them. Which one are you most interested in? And are there other new releases that I should keep my eye on? Let me know all those thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.